Sorry, folks. How you doing? Andrew Griffiths here. Welcome to our webinar. Thanks for tuning in. Time to get this rock show on the road. Anyone who I haven't already asked a couple of minutes ago, let us know that you can hear okay, that you can see okay in the little comments window or the chat window. There's also a Q&A, so you can ask questions if you like. Apart from all of that, I think we're just going to dive straight in and get things happening. Now, can I just see, can everyone hear okay again? I've just kind of restarted. I was saying offline a little bit before. We just had a few little problems. Sorry to keep asking you that question, but thank you very much for your feedback. Okay, everyone's good. Great. All right. Today's webinar is about building deeply engaged and connected tribes. Wow, what a topic that is, isn't it? Now, interesting enough, some of you may know, and there's a couple of you on the line who were there. I've just got back from an author retreat in Bali. Spent 4 days. The lovely Amanda Fisher is on the line who was there. We've got 4 days talking to people with books about how they leverage and how they promote, and they're all business owners as well. And of course, the topic of tribe building came up dramatically. And we spent almost a whole day, really, and lots of other time talking about tribes. So this is really, really a timely discussion. It was very thought-provoking for me, very thought-provoking for everyone else that was there. And it seems to be such a big topic. Now, before we dive into it, I would have the greatest pleasure to welcome my guest today, Rosemary Shapiro-Liu. And Rosemary, are you on the line?
Yes, I am.
Coming through loud and clear, I might add. And many of you on the line, just looking down at the list, you know Rosemary. She is a member of the KPI community, and Rosemary and I have been working together for the last 12 months. And Rosemary has literally just published a sensational book called The Mentor Within. And Rosemary, thank you so much for agreeing to come on the webinar with us today. Could you just tell us a little bit about The Mentor Within just before we get started?
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me here. And I see so many of my tribe online, which is wonderful. The Mentor Within is a book that is aimed at better decisions and powerful action. It's to turn down the volume of your monster within. So people living with difficult stuff that goes on inside their heads, to access your wisdom within, and then to be able to listen to that benevolent and excellent leader that we have inside called the mentor within. Right. It's really about being able to access your deepest and best wisdom.
Nice. Fantastic book. Your book launch was sensational. Anyone who knows you knows that you have a wonderful and innate sense of being able to help people get in touch with the mentor within, but also with tribe building. Now, some of you may not know that about Rosemary, but as far as I'm concerned, she is one of the top people to offer advice on how to build a tribe. And we've had many long conversations over the last 12 months about the philosophy behind building tribes, the actual doing it, how do you tell if tribes are engaged, why they're so important, where people are going wrong, and really pretty much all of the questions that we're going to be asking, all the questions we're going to be answering today. And I think that I couldn't think of a better person to do this webinar with, Rosemary. So thank you so much for coming on.
Wonderful. Thanks so much for having me.
Pleasure. Now, we're here to talk about tribes, and my take on this is that this is the image that we all want. Us, perhaps in amongst all these happy little smiling faces, everyone's engaged, life is beautiful and filled with smiley faces. But in reality, I think this is kind of a little bit closer. I think that what we end up with is we think everything's fine and dandy, we're tribe building, but our tribe is not connected with us, and they're not even connected with each other, which is really kind of the whole point of a tribe in many respects. So what we're trying to do on this webinar is to make the first picture, is to give you a few more kind of clues and indications about how you do this. Because I think that building a tribe is not as easy as people think, and there are many pitfalls. Have you got a couple of thoughts you'd like to just share to start us off, Rosemary?
Absolutely. I think that it's quite ironic that you invite me to talk about tribe when probably you have the strongest tribe of anybody I've ever had personal contact with. I think one of the things that we can all see, those of us who know you and know what you do, is that you have a large group of people who respond to almost everything that you put up. And I remember a long time ago when I was much more junior in this process, I remember saying online one day when you put up a workshop, Andrew, I haven't read what the workshop's about, but I've signed up. And that for me is a highly engaged tribe member. If you can trust the person who is the leader of your tribe to the point that you know it's going to be good, you know you're going to be part of it, you know you want to be part of whatever's available. That's part of knowing that you belong somewhere really well, and you just want more and more of that amazing feeling and connection and learning that you get from within a tribe.
Interesting, and thank you. That's a lovely compliment. One of the realizations that I had, Rosemary, on this retreat was that to have a tribe, you're a leader. And I think that some people struggle with that as a concept. They go, well, I'm connected to people, I'm influencing them, but I never necessarily considered myself to be a leader. And of course, every tribe has to have a leader. That's the way it works. That's what the chief is for. And I think that, for me and the people that I was teaching on this retreat, that was a really big realization, was, okay, I've got to lead a tribe, not just kind of passively be a part of it, even though we're all part of tribes, but if we want to grow one, we've got to assume that we're a leader and what that means. And that was a real aha moment for a lot of people, myself included, I might add. I always looked at being in a tribe as being a bit of a facilitator and being a part of it, but not necessarily being, the person who drives it and guides it. So I guess that was my realization. That's my little aha moment around tribes, Rosemary. So anyway, shall we move on and start talking about some of the questions that you've put through to me, and we've kind of worked through to see that these are the main ones, hey?
And maybe we should just check that other people are able to see those questions, because I can see the first slide only at the moment.
Sorry, Dal, there's nothing we can do about it now if they're not moving through, so there's nothing I can do from this end. We'll read out all the questions, we'll do everything we're going to need. There's no, we just got to go with that. It's going to be one of those webinar gremlin kind of days. So sorry, folks. As I say, I don't really know what else to say apart from a couple of you. Some of you can see it, some of you can't, so how do you fix that? I got no idea. Anyway, we'll read everything out. The slides, like you said, will be pretty. The content is what's important, okay? Excellent. You're not going to miss anything if you can't see the slides. So question one here is, what's a tribe and why do we need one? How can you answer that for us, Rosemary?
I think that one of the things that we are all bombarded with in small business entrepreneurial world is the need to build a massive sales funnel or a massive group of people that we can sell to. As a different kind of way of thinking, I really believe that there's a possibility that if we have a group of people around us that make us feel safe and secure, that hold us to account, that ask us to be the best that we can possibly be, to rise to our highest game, what we're doing is we're building the kind of community that is often missing in today's very strongly online world. And we can build it online, interestingly. So having a tribe is an amazing way of ensuring that you're staying on track of what it is that you want to do in your life, what you want to produce, what you want to serve, and what you want to offer. So a tribe is a place to feel that you are amongst those who get you and amongst those who are able to understand what it is that you're trying to achieve.
Right. Yep, I would agree with that. To even just add perhaps even a little bit of a simpler kind of slant on that as well, a tribe is a group of connected people with a shared purpose, a shared interest, a common interest, a common desire. And if anyone hasn't already seen it, there's a great video by Seth Godin, who really is, the guy that started this whole tribe concept years ago. This is a TED talk that he did. It's quite old. I think it's like 2003, but he really, really describes very well about how a tribe, what a tribe is, and how nowadays we live in a world where you can join a tribe. It might be Czechoslovakian accordion players. It might be Cairns Donkey Breeders Association, and all of a sudden there's a people that have got the shared interest or shared passion or shared purpose that can get together and be a community. But a tribe naturally starts to form, and there needs to be someone who's running it. There needs to be people who manage it. Everyone kind of has a role in there, and so it's an important thing to understand, and that's what a tribe is. But when it comes to us as individuals or business owners or authors or speakers or whatever it might be, why do we need a tribe, Rosemary? That's to me is the important part of this question.
Well, I can really rely on the information that has come through to me from people who have been part of what I now call my tribe, but probably in the past just called the people that I knew, the people who are around me. And one of the things that is a strong piece of feedback is when things are tough, if there are people that you can trust, that you can go to, who can hold you accountable, can affirm you and celebrate the things that have changed for you, then there's a real sense that you can keep moving. And people do have a lot of despondency with the amount of information that is thrown at us. There's a fire hose of information that's coming through all the time, and a fire hose of demands of things that we need to accomplish and do. When you have a group of people who is a tribe, who is a community of people that you really want to work with or really want to be with, there's a sense of those 3 points that I keep repeating: accountability, affirmation, and celebration. And it keeps people motivated. It keeps people on task. It keeps people feeling connected. I come from Africa, where tribes are, since time immemorial, people have lived within small communities or large communities of tribe. And there are incredible benefits of bringing up young people inside of that kind of environment. Mm-hmm. People miss that very much in a first world for instance, living in Sydney, in a first world environment where some people don't even have the community in their own street because everyone's driving out of long driveways rather than meeting on the front of their little verandas. So I think it's that bringing back together of what used to be a way of making decisions, connecting, and holding each other in social space.
Yeah, interesting, isn't it? I think there's, for me at least, there's such a purpose. We need one from a business point of view, because really tribes, in many respects, have become our way to market ourselves and promote ourselves. But there's also a few dangers with that, which we're going to talk about. But it gives us access to a market. People are a little bit more passionate, I think, about being part of a tribe, and I think that. I don't know, there's lots of layers of complexity around it, which I find quite fascinating. But the one thing I've realised is that, and exactly what you were saying before, Rosemary, when you've got a connected and engaged tribe or community, however you want to use it, it is extraordinary what that community will do for you. And I think that's been around for a long time, obviously, but I've seen that firsthand. I've experienced that firsthand. I've seen that when I've been working with business in the PR environment, and I've seen a company that doesn't have a very good reputation, and they don't really treat their staff well, they don't really treat customers well, they don't really treat any of their tribes well. The minute they got into financial drama, they're basically just closed down because no one wants anything to do with them. And yet I've seen another business, one called what was it called? Sun Valley or something like that. I can't quite remember the name of a company in South Australia that have built this incredible tribe with its customers over many, many years. And when they sent this little email out on a Friday afternoon saying, hey, we're sorry, but we've got to close down. We just can't afford to keep going. We can't really compete with Myers and Coles and all that kind of stuff. There were riots in the streets of Adelaide, where people turned around and said, we're not going to let you kind of close down. And what ended up saving them was that Coles and Woolies actually had to buy $20 million of their products because of the goodwill and the demands from consumers saying, if you don't buy their products, we're going to stop using you guys. And I thought, wow, now that's a powerful tribe for a business that sells condiments like sauces and pickles and chutney. It really, there's all kinds of tribes. Don't just think that it's all about just having a big tribe because you're an author or because, you're someone famous or whatever it might be. But anyway, that's enough of my ranting. Let's move on. Question number 2, Rosemary. Can you share with us a story, an example of one particular tribe that you've developed, and what did you learn from forming this tribe?
A long time ago, actually, strangely enough, on a webinar with you, Andrew, you were talking about putting 30 minutes a day into writing a book. Yeah. And I was thinking, what do I really need to do for 30 minutes a day to get my life moving the way that I wanted to? And I realized it was before I even wrote, I needed to be fit. I needed to be strong and I needed to be healthy. So I committed at that moment of writing 30 minutes a day to walking 30 minutes a day. And I made the announcement on Facebook, which was at the time perhaps a community of people that I could loosely start calling a tribe. I said, I'm going to walk 30 minutes a day, every day, and I'm going to post my walks, which I did. After about 4 or 5 posts, friends started asking, could they join me? They also want to walk 30 minutes a day. The next month, I set up a 30-day challenge where we could walk together all over the world, posting our 30 minutes a day plus 10, some 10-minute challenge that we would do together, like decluttering or getting stronger. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. This went on month after month with more and more people joining, and it became known as the Walking Tribe. Someone in South Africa, Hazel Jacobs, she said, that's a walking tribe that we have here. And the Walking Tribe is now finishing, yesterday we finished our 34th month of having a theme every month where we walk together. But the interesting thing about that tribe is it has developed to the point that people are supporting each other through deaths in the family, through hip replacements, through depressions, through violence, anything that anybody has struggled with, and they bring that theme each month to the walking tribe. People support them from all over the world. They can contribute and they can benefit. And the interesting thing for me about the walking tribe, people coming in and out each month, choosing to be part of it or not, is that the people who are benefiting the most from it are the ones who contribute the most to it. Mm-hmm. And there are people who feel that they contribute for a while, then they benefit for a while. It doesn't have to happen at the same time. But there's a lot of guilt in those who feel that they haven't got time to talk to other people online and support them. So the strongest thing I've learned there is that people inside of a tribe don't want to just benefit. They want to be part of contributing.
That's a big point, isn't it? How do you communicate to them? Like, what platform do you use to connect with your tribe here, Rosemary?
We've been using Facebook the whole way through with an event that we start each month. And the fascinating thing is that through the Facebook ease of connection, people can actually pop in and pop out, but manage to be in contact with each other just as much as they wish. They don't have to know each other in person. Mm-hmm. So Facebook is the platform. And the methodology is a 30-month challenge because I believe in bracketing tasks. I think when people feel they have to be part of something, even being part of a community forever, it can feel like it's exhausting. So 30-minute brackets of time with each other, spurts of energy with a particular theme.
That's the way that it works. We might get you to use some examples about how you work with that tribe throughout this talk, actually, because I can see that there's probably a lot of relevance as we move through to answer that. It's an interesting thing, I guess, when you talk about one particular tribe. For me, I have a number of tribes, and I'm going to kind of talk to that a little bit later on as well. And each are slightly different. I communicate with each on a probably slightly different way, a slightly different platform. And I think for me at least, I've learned something quite different from each of those particular tribes about what their needs are, what their expectations are, how they interact, how they engage. And probably a take home for me is that not every tribe is the same. So don't necessarily treat them all the same for those people who are perhaps dabbling in a couple of different tribes or work across a few different areas. So, yeah, I mean, what's your take on that, Rosemary?
I have a very particular tip that I would like to give here. It's not just about the different tribes, but it's about the different people inside the tribe. Perhaps the thing I find most irritating when I belong to a community of people, maybe I wouldn't call them all tribes, I'd call some of them just communities that connect loosely. There is nothing that I find more irritating than people sending me kind of pre-planned template pieces of information that is meant for everybody and that are meant to respond the same as other people. So I really believe wherever possible, you need to personalize your communication with the people in your tribe. So you will have things like announcements, or you will have things like posts on Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter, but you will also have personal one-on-one messaging or SMSs or emails with people in your tribe to talk directly with them. And if you don't do that, I think you've lost the point of the people. They become just a mass of people that you're talking at rather than communicating with.
I think that is just such a fabulous point that you got to have that view up front. Like, how are you going to build this tribe? How are you really going to connect and engage? If you're just going to yell at them and just send them stuff all the time, that's not how you don't build any relationship by doing that. It doesn't matter whether it's building a tribe or building a marriage. You know, having a one-sided conversation is just a recipe for disaster. So, really interesting. Hey, that kind of leads us on to the next question, really. Where do you think people go wrong when it comes to building a tribe?
That's the key mistake that I think people have. I think that one of the problems is shouting at a group of people and believing that they're going to respond. Yep. Anybody who's read Elizabeth Gilbert's work and her tribe building, you'll notice that every single time she posts, even if it is to 10,000 people, one has a sense that she's talking directly to you. Right. And so that's each of the very intentional posts that she puts up is aimed at you. You can feel that she's connecting with what she's heard from her people. She has a massive amount of engagement in comments online, and she's really listening to where people are needing to connect with her. But she's also prepared in most situations to respond directly to comments. Interestingly, the mistake that I saw her make was I went to watch one of her extraordinary talks, and at the end, those of you who know Joanne Fedler, who's very strong on how people should and shouldn't behave with groups of people, Joanne was completely horrified as an author to see that Elizabeth Gilbert did not do any book signing. And so she did not meet individually with her tribe who traveled from, all corners of Australia to see her. And I feel that that's the kind of mistake that really is negative marketing. It's a negative stance when you actually do come into contact with your people in person, but you don't meet with them individually in person.
Mm-hmm. What other things? That's one thing. So where else do people go wrong when it comes to building a tribe?
Trying to put a whole group of people together and then calling them a tribe. People don't want to be told that they're part of a tribe. They want to choose to belong. In fact, I think it's quite risky to call any of the people that you're connecting with your tribe or a tribe until that suggestion has come from them. Mm-hmm. Or until that suggestion has built within the group. I was really excited when a person inside my tribe said, I think this is called the Walking Tribe. And people started to respond incredibly well to that. I'm not sure whether some people might have left the group at that point. Maybe they felt they didn't want to be part of a tribe. Mm-hmm. But for those who engaged, it really made sense to them. So I think that's the second mistake is, throwing it at people and telling them that they're part of something. That's not fair. Mm-hmm. But the third one is this issue of believing that the people inside the tribe are benefiting from you rather than contributing to community. Mm-hmm. And people want to benefit and contribute.
Mm-hmm. I think I agree with all those 3 points. I think some of the other common problems are that people, whatever the terminology may be, people just sell. All they do is sell. And I think that ultimately wears very, very thin with any kind of communication or community, just as one-sided conversation wears thin as well. I think that people don't understand who their tribe is or what type of people they want in their tribe. So they take a bit of a scattergun approach and they don't really kind of stop and take that step backwards and say, well, how can I help these people? Who do I know? It's like writing a book. If you don't define who your niche is, if you're not clear on who your niche is, then how, you write a terrible book because you're kind of writing it for everyone, yet you can't write a book for everyone because it's not relevant for everyone. It's like running a business that's, my customers are everyone. Well, really? I don't know any business in the world where everyone is their customer. So I think there's that. I think there's another problem that I see, Rosemary. I think that people go wrong with really inconsistent communication, with their tribe. If you build a tribe and there's a following happening and people that try to communicate once and then they try and communicate again in 2 months' time, and there's no, the communication is not considered and it's not structured. I'm not saying it needs to be every day, 10 times a day, but it does need to be thought through. That I think that people, once they form part of a tribe, if you don't communicate to suit them in their terms and how they like to be communicated with as well, I think they lose interest and move on. And I think that's how we all get these days in the busy world that we live in, is that we soon know when, I'm kind of not feeling the love in that group anymore, or that, or with this guy's email or newsletter or whatever it might be. And that's when people slowly start to move off. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, but I think it's a little bit of a reflection about, well, okay, where are we? How are we communicating? What are we trying to do? So are there any other kind of thoughts you would have about mistakes that people make when they're trying to build a tribe?
Well, somebody just read my mind there, Danny Wood, when you talk about how do you set expectations within a tribe around communication with you. Mm-hmm. I think that one of the core areas that you can prevent mistakes is to actively set expectations, mm-hmm. to set expectations with groups of people and individuals, to ask, what is it that you want? How do you want to be communicated with? What irritates you? And in my book, I talk about that a huge amount in terms of the fact that if you don't ask what people want, you certainly aren't going to be able to meet their needs. Mm. Sometimes what they want is what you can't do. Sometimes you can't be available to people, but if you ask how they'd like you to be available to them and you can explain what is possible, and the same for how they can be available to you, that setting of expectations makes it so much clearer to work directly with people in a way that they want to connect with you.
So I've got a question here, Rosemary, from Danny Wood. Thank you, Danny. Your question is, well, how do you set expectations within the tribe around communication from you? And I guess you're probably the best position on top of that answer to maybe talk that through, Rosemary. How do you do it?
Okay, so let's have a really straightforward example of this. One of the things that I do every time I work with individuals is I ask them how they like to be communicated with. Mm-hmm. So I will ask them, do you like, if I need to send you a message, do you want it on SMS? Do you want it on Messenger? Would you like to hear from me on email? Would you like a phone call? And I write that into their notes. And so that when the person is connecting with me, they're actually being able to, they're knowing that I'm listening to what they need and I'm responding in that way. I've also asked them directly, please tell me if that changes. But I tell them the same thing. So for a long time, I had on my email signature, I don't work on Tuesdays. Mm-hmm. And that was just the expectation. I was not available on Tuesdays. I was being a mum that day and nobody was to contact me on a Tuesday and people respected it. Mm-hmm. So literally just asking, what do you want? What do you expect? What do you need? Is a really important first step to ensuring that you're setting the expectations well with your tribe. You can't always do that individually, but you can ask it as a generic question or a poll and people will give you very strong answers.
Mm-hmm. So sorry about that. Sorry if there was a bit of noise in there. My little dog just had a little tail under the wheel of the chair. So sorry about the real life things. It's going to be one of those webinars where technical things happen, dog things happen. But anyway, sorry, little girl. Okay, so yeah, I know. A couple have said, "Oh, poor little Lala. She's okay. Don't worry. She's just looking at me like I'm a monster." So thank you for that, Rosemary. Look, I agree with you. I think setting expectations is about having honest communication. But I think that you can also read some of the signs and you can see when people start to disengage, when I think if you start to communicate too much, if you're not, if you're kind of bombarding, I think that to me is one of the problems that I see with tribe building, communicating to a group is that people start to over communicate. And I guess it's really hard to say, well, how much is enough? How much is not enough? That's one of the ones you've got to base on feedback. And I think you've got to have people within your group and if you're engaged enough, they're going to say to you, listen, you're kind of bombarding us here, or, hey, we don't hear from you enough. I don't really get a chance to engage. So that's one of the little triggers is that whole, if your tribe is really engaged with you and what you're doing, your messages that you're sharing, I think they'll tell you whether they like what you're doing or not. And with expectation-wise, they'll be managing that themselves if you listen to what it is, if you look for the signs, and if you're brave enough to reach out and take it on board. And I know with my tribe, I was mentioning to Rosemary just offline a little bit earlier on, but my Twitter account got hacked over the weekend and while I was away. And it was interesting that all of a sudden, all those sex sites were coming up on my Twitter feed. And I got this pile of messages from people just saying, hey, Andrew, I think they're a little bit, your latest tweets are a little bit off brand for you. I'm pretty sure you haven't gone into the sex trade industry and all that kind of stuff. And it was really kind of interesting. They did it really, really respectfully and nicely. No one went on Twitter and said, freaking Andrew Griffiths is doing this. And I thought, wow, I was so grateful. And I didn't know most of the people who had commented, but that's how they'd come back to me. I thought, another one of those little signs that maybe, you have engaged with your audience in a nice way. And again, but we're going to talk about that a little bit more there. But, really the problems are if you're not getting any feedback from your tribe, well, that's, clearly you've got problems, I think is what I would sum that up, Rosemary, or how I would sum that up. So question number 4, what's the single most important consideration when it comes to building a tribe for you?
Absolutely, your reason for doing it. So
right.
If your reason is servant leadership, if your reason is to support people in what it is that they're trying to achieve in life, if your reason is to help a community to do better what they're currently doing, then that's that is the main consideration. I think that probably the greatest mistake, and that is also a strong consideration, is if you're building a tribe to try and get stuff from them, and that's your main aim, that's not going to be a great way of starting out. So to think about who the people are around you, what they expect of you, what you can offer that somebody else can't offer, and how you can connect them to one another so that it becomes a circular thing. If it's just about you sitting as a sort of a kingdom or a queendom with a bunch of minions, that's not really a fantastic tribe.
Yeah.
If it's a community of people who are connecting with one another with similar goals, and you've got very strong leadership in the way that you guide that community. I've spoken about the walking tribe, but I obviously work within a variety of different settings where I'm taking people in a particular direction, whether it's working in the field of disability or whether it's working in the field of social justice, what used to be in criminal justice or restorative justice, guiding people in a particular direction to be the best they can be. If you're able to be the person leading that, great. If you're not, best to step out the way and let somebody else do that and work out what it is that you're best at leading.
A nice, what I take from that, and my biggest belief, Rosemary, as well, is to serve, not sell. And and if I kind of looked at that as a line, that's what kind of guides me in my kind of tribe building activity, is to be of service, to be helpful. I think one of the little bits of feedback that I look for often in feedback, and Sharon Chisholm, funnily enough, I think is on the call. She wrote a couple of times really nice little comments saying, Andrew, I love everything you post on Facebook, or I love everything you share on there, and I get that often. And again, a point that I guess I'm making throughout this webinar so far is looking for the little triggers that people give you, or the little signs to say that you're engaging with people who are happy to share that stuff. So thank you, Sharon. You are on the line there, and it's very nice when people say that kind of stuff. So that single most important consideration, if I come back to that, when it comes to building a tribe, is if you're setting it up to sell stuff to them, that's all it's there. It's really going to be a shallow tribe. It probably ain't going to work, and you might get 10 million people on there, but it will be irrelevant. And I'm going to add that as one of my kind of key points, I think, on this side of things. They're the single most important consideration when it comes to building a tribe. It's not the size of the tribe, it's how engaged they are. And I would rather have 100 people in a tribe that are really engaged than a pointless email database of 10,000 and that really don't know you. It's just a random collection. They were never going to buy from you anyway, even if you're promoting stuff to them. But it's size. We're obsessed with the size of your tribe. Or the size of your list, or the size of your Facebook followers, or the number of Facebook followers, or the size of your Twitter list, and all the rest of it. And I'm starting to see people that are saying, you know what, I don't care about the size. It's the wrong question to be asking. How big is your tribe, or how big is your database? Your question really should be is how engaged are they? I think that to me is a fundamental shift in thinking, and I'm so over people, asking that question. How big is your group? You kind of go, really? Well, wrong question. So what's your take on that one now that I've had a little bit of a rant?
It's a good rant. It's a very good rant.
Thank goodness for that. It's been a rough morning.
It's absolutely, completely true. I think that there is a very strong sense of acquisition at the moment.
Right. Yeah, isn't it? That's a
online.
Great word, isn't it? Acquire and build a giant list. Acquisition is a great term, yeah.
That's it. That you're going to be able to sell to a big list, that you're going to have a large list of people. Well, the reality is I get about 30 or 40 emails a day that I don't open every single day. And I just don't quite have the courage to delete them and to unsubscribe. I tend to think, I'll go back to them. No, I won't go back to them. I won't be able to. I won't have the time. So which ones do I open? Which ones am I interested in? Well, there are people that I'm actually really interested in what they've got to offer, or what they stand for, or what it is that I particularly need. And I'm sure that almost everybody who's on this webinar is getting lists and lists and lists of these emails coming down from people that are not able to give them what they're wanting. They'll open one or two every time. And I think that that's the question to each of you is, why do you open the ones that you open? Why do you follow the people that you follow? What is it that draws you to them? And what is it in there that you want to do the same as, imitate, be part of, so that you can draw people to you? Just think about that for a minute. Think about when you do follow people, when you do admire people, when you do find mentors or teachers, what do you see in them that you want other people to see in you? And that will help you to understand how to build your tribe.
I think that is a really great example. That's a great thing to do, because I'm exactly the same. You get a pile of emails, but I get it from that one particular source or that one particular person, and I always read it. I always read my Seth Godin once a day email that comes through. And why do I read it? Because I know that I'll learn from it. I know it'll be short. I know that it'll be thought-provoking, and it'll be interesting. Look, sometimes it's none of that. But he's got so much good credibility with me that it would take a month of bad emails before I would disconnect from his tribe. And I think that that's there. Can I just read out someone else has said in here? Sharon has just responded to your kind of question there, Rosemary, and her response is, because I always love what they do. They're engaging, they give away their knowledge, their experience and humour with no expectation. There are a few people that I'll always read. And I think that probably sums it up, doesn't it? So great point. Be more observant about the ones that you're getting and the ones that you're reading, the communication that you're reading. If you see someone in your Facebook feed, I always go and check out what they've got to say. Why? What is it about them? How do they make you feel? And I think it's a wonderful learning, Rosemary. So cool.
I think inside of that, there's a lot of generosity that one's looking for. If people are being generous, it just draws people to them.
It does, doesn't it? And they're giving knowledge away. I think that's a nice point that you make up in there, Sharon, as well. They're giving their knowledge, they're giving their expertise. They're actually coming from a place of, hey, I want to help you. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit more when we move on, because I want to talk about setting the right intent and purpose with all of your communication to your tribe. But anyway, Rosemary, let's go to question number 5 here. How do you tell that your tribe is engaged, and how can other people tell the same thing?
I can generally tell if my tribe is engaged because they are literally talking to me. They're literally connecting with me. They are wanting to get hold of me. They're wanting to get hold of each other. And so we see, for instance, in the Walking Tribe, it's a good example, if people are talking to each other about their posts and commenting on their posts and noticing what's happening, that's just a very straightforward way. But if you're offline, for instance, because we're not only talking about online tribes, and people are actually turning up without you having to push them, people are participating without being pushed, people are offering to be part of setting up an event, setting up an engagement, if they're offering to volunteer to be part of stuff, or asking how they can connect with you more strongly and do more with you. I'm particularly interested in not just thinking about the online groupings, because more and more people are wanting to engage in meetups. They're wanting to engage face-to-face to get back that kind of connection, which is lost to many people. And I have had so many experiences of where I've had to push people. I've had to try and fill a room. I've had to try and bring people on board. I've had to request for people to help me. And I'll use my book launch as an example. I had people phoning me, emailing me, connecting and saying, what can I do to help? I do not want to be paid. I want to volunteer. What is possible? How can I be part of this thing that I've watched you do for a while? How can I prop it up? How can I support it? How can I engage with you? And you can feel that difference. You feel that panic when nobody's kind of coming in, or you feel that complete overwhelm with, my goodness, what do I do with all this wonderful support and connection from people?
Great. I'm like you too. I get so much feedback that I guess my initial thing, or my initial measurement for a lack of engagement, would be the feedback stops. And I think feedback takes many different shapes and forms. I mentioned the Twitter thing. I've also had members of my tribe and community kind of, if I've partnered with someone where they've turned around, and I made a mistake of partnering with a lady in America last year, and I didn't see all of her promotion material. I was really doing it from a place of good. She needed a hand, and I partnered with her, and by the time I'd done it, her material was really dodgy, and she'd kind of become one of those make a 7-figure income in 3 days kind of people. But I felt obligated. So anyway, I promoted this webinar with her, and I had, I don't know, probably 50 people that contacted me privately saying, Andrew, do you really think that that's on target with your brand? You know, love what you do, but, you know, I think you should be more careful, protect your brand. And I went, wow, how what a gift that people care enough to send you a message and actually ask that kind of question. I thought, wow, that was really, really interesting. I think another way that I kind of measure engagement is not by the number of shares or the number of likes or all that kind of stuff, but again, by people taking the time to make a comment, to give feedback, and to share what is valuable and important to them as well, and say, hey, you might like this, you might find this valuable for you. I think that we've got to kind of have our own little matrix that you work out, but there is no doubt at all, if there is nothing coming back from your tribe, they're probably not engaged. I think that's what I would probably say is a trigger. But I think that also you've got to be a little bit realistic and go, well, it depends on the time, depends on the time of year, depends what else is happening. And maybe that's a little bit of a signal that you've got to try and change your content. And an example I'll use here, I work with a friend of mine who is a business advisor, and one of the biggest pieces of advice I gave to him was let people know a bit more about you, be a little bit more personal. You do a lot of stuff outside of work, but all of your connection and contact is all just business, 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 and people want to know who you are. Now, I'm not saying, my standing joke here is that you don't have to post the video of your latest colonoscopy, but what you do have to do is you've got to let them into your world a little bit. You've got to kind of show them a bit about who you are, what you stand for, what you believe in, and trust that your tribe will respect that. And I think, again, that's one of the areas that I normally get the most engagement from, that type of stuff. So no feedback, a bit of a lack of engagement, and then you've got to work out your strategy saying, well, what does that mean and what are you going to do about it? Okay, Rosemary, let's move on to the next one if we can. This is your space here. You're the triple win lady. Tell us what is, question number 6, what is your triple win philosophy and how does it apply to tribe building? This is a really good one, folks. Really, really valuable piece of information.
When I first started to try and work out what it was that I wanted to do as a key area that I could perhaps be remembered for, that could be in my obituary one day, it was all about trying to move from win-win, which is, I think, a very tight transaction that you have with people where I win, you win, it's over, to triple win, win-win-win, which means wins for yourself, for those around you, and for the world. And I believe that most of the most powerful actions that we take are good for yourself, for those around you, and for the world. Working with a lot of change makers, I found that they were incredibly good at looking after the people around them and the world, but not incredibly good at looking after themselves. Working with large businesses, I found that people were very interested in looking after the business interests and looking after the staff interests in some cases, but not looking after what was going on in the world. And so when one of the three is missing, the wins for yourself, for those around you, or for the world, it means that there is a kind of, it's shallow. There isn't a sense of this is moving in a dynamic direction. And somebody said to me the other day, what I love about the triple win philosophy is once there are 3 wins, and once it is building in that way, it becomes a bit like a wheel. It just keeps moving and getting bigger and bigger. And there are 4 wins and there are 5 wins. You see this a lot in social entrepreneurial work where people are making sure that whatever they do is good for everybody. And if you are really serious about having a tribe and building a tribe, you will be looking for the triple win in everything. It has to be good for you. If it's a task for you, if it's an effort, if you wake up in the morning and go, oh my Lord, I have got so many people I need to service, then honestly, you're not either in the right tribe or you're not in a triple win thinking. If you're not able to make those people around you really happy and comfortable and get what they need, and if you're not able to ensure that that is good for the world, you're not building tribe in the way that I understand tribe. Right. There's a tip here, and the tip is like the inside of an onion. You need a small group of people around you that you can actually test your stuff with. So this goes back to the question we had a minute ago as well. Thinking about how can you test if your group is engaged in getting what they want. You need a small group of people like the inside of the onion that you can ask, you can check, you can find out, is this the right tone? How is this for you? What do you think? Find an accountability buddy or 2. And then you need a slightly larger group of people around that so that you're not always trying to deal with everybody and please everybody. You're going through the steps of wins for yourself, wins for those tightly around you, and then wins for the world.
Nice. I love the triple win philosophy about everything in business. I think those businesses that take a triple win philosophy, Tesla is a prime example. There's so many that you look at, but in your own small business, it's such an easy way to do it. Make it good for you, make it good for your customers, make it good for your community, and everyone wins and everyone kind of grows. And it's really a fundamental for business success, I believe, that whole philosophy. In terms of applying it to tribe building, if you win, the tribe wins, and then the community wins, whatever that looks like, or the environment wins, or whatever it might be, it's a really beautiful way of looking at, I think, every part of our life, Rosemary. So check it out. If you want to know more about that, visit Rosemary's site, which is actually triplewin.com.au, right?
That's correct.
Easy. All right, let's keep going. We've got 15 minutes to go. Question number 7. So how does having an engaged tribe lead to growing your business, Rosemary?
More than anything else, if you have people who love what you do, they'll tell other people about it. That's the simple answer.
Right.
If you have people who understand what you do, they can sell you to other people, and they will. That isn't your intention when you start working with people as a tribe, but it certainly is the outcome. You find that people are promoting you and your material and what it is that you want to do in the world to other people on your behalf.
Okay. Yeah, nice. So, look, and I agree with that side of things there. It's the engaged tribe these days is, it's like having a happy customer base, whichever way you want to look at it. But it's just an essential part of growing a business. And that's what we've all realised now. It used to be a little bit passive that you would advertise or promote. Nowadays, the tribe is kind of replacing that in an unusual way. Okay, or a new way. It's not an unusual way, it's a good way. So question 8 then that leads on from this. So you build an engaged tribe, how do you sell to them? Because we're saying you can't just build them and sell, because people get sick and tired of that. I get sick and tired of that. And so I'm very, very conscious about it. So pardon me, what's your advice on that? How do we sell to an engaged tribe without kind of pissing them off?
You sell very seldom. You sell seldom. You do it as part of all of your service to your tribe. So if there is something specific that you know that people are going to want, you can tell them about it, because it's an opportunity for them. It's something that they want, and it's something that they're going to choose to buy. But it can't be every time you speak to them. It can't be every time you connect with them. It must be one in a certain number, and you choose how often you'll actually sell something to your tribe. Some people don't sell anything to their tribe at all. Mm-hmm. They just keep their tribe engaged and connected with a lot of content. Andrew, you're a lot like that. You keep putting out content, you keep putting out material, and every now and then there's an opportunity for us to buy a really strong engagement with you, or a really strong engagement with something that you do, and people will choose to get that because they're wanting more. But it's not because they're feeling like, oh, there are 52 things I could buy here, I don't even know where to start, I think I won't buy anything. It's that hunger that is built in the tribe for something more. And, I'm very aware of the fact that women particularly will keep offering content and and actually not offer anything at all to sell, because they're too shy to offer that opportunity. And that's obviously a stereotype, but it is something that I see with my clientele, is that people find it quite hard to offer something to sell when it's like selling to friends. Yeah. Once you get to know your tribe, you kind of go, well, how do you sell to friends? These are my mates. Am I going to give mates rates to every person in my tribe because they're part of the tribe? Well, and that's part of the debate.
It's really interesting, though. You're right. People always ask me, like, what's my ratio between how many messages I would have and how often I would put a sales message in there. To be honest, I reckon my ratio would be at least 100 to 1. It probably even higher, to be honest. Like I could count the number of times that I actively try to sell something. I'll promote things. I'll do things like this webinar. But we're not trying to sell anything. It's about my philosophy on this is really to serve. Serve the tribe. Make everything that I do of value to them. And look, and sometimes I might put in a message there, which is a message around my beliefs about animal cruelty, now that I've just run over my dog's tail, and just, kind of show that insight in there. But I guess I'm trying to look a little bit at who I am and what I do, as opposed to trying to sell something. But I think you've got to find what works for you. But I do agree with you. I do find that women generally are much more conservative about selling to their tribe. And then you've got the other extreme, which are those lunatics that just make every message is a sales thing. So you've got to work out what you're comfortable with, and know also, this is something that I've only really learned in the last probably few months, actually, Rosemary, that my tribe wants to buy things from me. And I'm not pushing, like this retreat that I just did to Bali. The only place I really promoted it was on Facebook. Not with ads, just on hey, this is my Facebook page and on my blog. I'm doing this. If anyone's kind of interested, this is what it is. And I was amazed that, that's what filled it up, and that's what most people turned around and said, yep, that was great. I didn't need to go and sell hard and push hard or do any of that stuff, because the tribe were going, great, this is what we want. And now I get a lot more people saying to me, hey, could you do this? Could you sell this? Could you make this kind of product? So again, if you've got an engaged tribe, they will let you know what they want to sell, but they'll also let you know if they're grumpy with you trying to sell too much stuff to them. And that's again, that little bit of a measurement where you've got to be going, maybe I'm trying too hard. Or if you're selling something that they don't feel is aligned to who you are and what you are, if they're engaged, they'll tell you. So this keeps coming back to this constant theme, I think, Rosemary, that I'm hearing myself repeating in my head, that you've got to listen to your tribe. If they're engaged and you're giving them the right information and you're making an effort to build a relationship, then they're okay with it. They'll give you feedback. But if it's just a one-sided interaction where you're ultimately just going to sell, it's not really a tribe. It's just kind of a waste of everyone's time. It's not what I think is the bottom line in there. Okay, let's keep moving on, Rosemary. Great point. Thank you for that one. Question 9, what's the biggest thing to be careful of when building a tribe?
Interestingly, I think that this is a really nice one to ask people right now while you're listening. Just jot into this chat window that we have. What's sitting in your mind at the moment in terms of some resistance, some sense of be careful of a tribe. I'm not sure that I want to go that way. This is my fear. This is what's I'm going to struggle with. I'd love to hear some of your comments on what it is that you think you have to be careful of when building a tribe, because I think there's some suspicion and there's some concern, and I can guess what some of those things are. Mm-hmm. But I would love to hear from people who are online the kinds of things that they are struggling with at the moment around tribes. So anybody who wants to say that, please pop it in. I think the biggest thing to be careful of is not being a servant leader, not being somebody who is there to support the needs of the people inside of the group. If you are doing it for any other reason than that, have another think about another way of working with your people.
Right, yeah, look, and yeah, I agree with that as well. One of the things that I think of that I'm going to add in here is the fact of, I think that people undervalue what they have. So if I was to say, what's the biggest thing to be careful of when building a tribe is to not be yourself, is to not be really that authentic you. Because I hear this all the time. Well, what do I say? What are people going to want to know about who I am? And no one cares what I do and all the rest of it. There's a bit of that lack of confidence. I mean, I talked to my IT guy, and my IT guy, Ben, is just amazing. He sits down for 5 minutes and he just shows me all the stuff that I can do with my computer. You know, he sits down for another 10 minutes, shows me all these apps that will save me days in my life. He just is so amazing at sharing information and helping. I say, why aren't you posting this stuff on Facebook? Why aren't you sharing this information with your customers in a newsletter or, doing that kind of stuff? He says, everyone knows this. No one cares about all this kind of stuff. And I said, I guarantee that everyone cares about this stuff. For me, the biggest webinar I've ever conducted was one on the ultimate productivity tips. And everyone kind of turned around. And we had 450,000 views on SlideShare to show how important that stuff was. Yet the evidence wasn't enough because my friend just doesn't feel confident. And a number of you have come up there. I won't go through all of these, Rosemary, because there's a pile of responses there. But but it's around that whole confidence. Do people really want to hear what I have to say? So thank you, Lee, for that one. When customers are new to a tribe concepts and setting their expectations. So again, people tend to be quiet. It's like when someone first walks into a room and they're trying to get a bit of a feel for it. Those things come into play there. We got Kirsty saying not being able to maintain consistent communication levels, feast or famine. Is that something that we need to be careful about? And I agree with all of those ones. Danny, and also even throwing at people the fact that they're part of a tribe, because maybe they don't see that. Just building up the relationship is, building it up as a tribe is not necessarily the best thing to do, but building it up as a set of relationships is. I agree. Okay, hey, we've only got a few minutes. We've got to kind of keep moving on, folks, if we can. Number 10 here, can you have more than one tribe, Rosemary? Absolutely. And you should have. I don't think that you can lump everybody into one space and say that's my tribe, but you certainly can have groups of interest or groups of concern and people that might want to engage in a larger group at any one time. And I agree with that. I've got a number of tribes. I have my speaker tribe, my author tribe, my KPI tribe, my small business tribe, from a business sense side of things there. And what I find, the only thing is you've got to be a little bit different with each group. You've got to understand them really well. You've got to know the ideal people in each of those tribes, and just again be considered in your actions with them. And I'll talk about that a little bit more again. But anyone who's wondering about it, as always, just be aware of the fact that you can have more than one tribe. Don't feel that one tribe is it, and how do I don't try and squeeze everyone into the one tribe is probably my little bit of advice on that one. Okay, question 11: how do you keep a tribe engaged over a long period of time? How do you do this, Rosemary? Because you do this really, really well. I think that the most important thing is to not be concerned if they're not engaged for a while.
It's absolutely fine. People are busy. They can't be doing your stuff all of the time. You're going to draw them to you when it's the right time. And if they trust you enough, if there hasn't been any bad blood, they're probably likely to pop in and out of communication with you depending on what else they have going on in their lives. The most important thing is to keep providing interesting, useful information and engagement. And more often than not, questions to your tribe rather than information is going to engage them.
I think a great point. My take on it a little bit is you've got to evolve with your tribe as well. You know, just where your tribe is at today, it doesn't mean that's where they're going to be in a year's time or 2 years' time. And it's very, very interesting to see those people who have built really powerful and engaged tribes are constantly evolving, constantly learning. They're quite happy to kind of share their own trials and tribulations, what they've got right, what they've got wrong. And I agree with you, asking better questions. But the key for me is you keep a tribe engaged by evolving over a period of time, and you're taking them on that journey with you to use. I know that's a little bit of a cliche to use that term, but that is really what they're doing. They're coming along with you, and they're kind of watching you evolve. And again, that's the feedback that I've had from a lot of people that I consider part of my inner sanctum. They said, their comment is, Andrew, I'm really enjoying watching how you're evolving. And, with your profile and what you do and all the rest of it. And I thought, wow, what an interesting thing and what a lovely thing to say, I might add as well. So, you keep your tribe engaged by everything that Rosemary said. Keep serving, keep being of value, keep evolving, keep growing as a person, growing in whatever field you're in, keep growing and developing and look for more ways to serve them. And I think that that's the essence of it. So, nice stuff, Rosemary. Okay, question 12, Rosemary Shapiro-Liu, sum up your advice as a tribe building expert. What should people be leaving this webinar with?
The strongest point I want to leave with each person who's here is that you know how to do it for yourself. You know how to do it. If you spend the time thinking through what it is that you want to achieve, why you want to achieve it, the answers will come. And if you're struggling with getting those answers, go find yourself a contemplative rock, somewhere quiet in nature, where you can ask yourself the right questions. So the first point is you'll know what to do. If you don't know what to do, ask somebody to help you. Ask somebody to think through. I love helping people think through those kinds of things. You will have other mates around you who will help you think it through, but you will know what to do if you just put the time to it. The second point is to be a servant leader, which I've mentioned many times. And the way to do that is to help people to find out what it is that they need. Ask the right questions and you'll be able to answer what it is that they want. Nice. The third thing is to set the right intention.
Yeah, I agree.
You absolutely need to set the right intention. If you're doing it for reasons that feel wrong in your gut, you'll know whether that's the right thing to do or not. And when you set that intention, make sure that you're helping people to be part of an accountability structure, an affirmation structure, and a celebration structure. When Andrew said just now, people say, I love watching you evolve. That was around celebration. People celebrating with us our achievements, and we celebrate with them theirs. And the last thing is to do with personal content. You want to have individual contact with your people as much as possible. If you're going to send a message out to everybody, send it as an individual message out to everybody. Wherever you can, be in contact with people one-to-one. Really listen to the suggestions they make and the ideas they bring to you, because otherwise they'll feel undervalued and then they can't benefit and contribute, which is what they want to do.
Lovely point, Rosemary. I think that's great advice and a nice way to sum up. I've got a few points that I consider, I guess, my own philosophy on this as well. Number one is serve, not sell. Serve your community, don't just sell to them, is my kind of little mantra. Number two, be authentic. Really be yourself. And again, a bit of an overused term these days, but authenticity is just such a key to true engagement these days. You're not trying to be perfect, you're trying to be real. Your own trials, tribulations, etc. are there. And let your tribe know those and let them support you. I think that's an important thing. Number three, support your tribe in good times and in bad. And the individual contact, I really love that point of yours. I try and do that, Rosemary, as well. Just a little, private message here and there, a private email. Hey, how you doing? Know you're doing something tough, or noticing when, people that are always around or on a call or on a webinar or whatever it might be. Just something really very kind of cool about that. And the last point I would have is to be considered in all of your communication. Everything you do, every bit of communication I do, I'm absolutely, totally considered. And I stop and I ask myself a number of questions. One, is this of help to my tribe? You know, will this be a benefit for them? Am I being authentic in what I'm writing here? And you know, what, you know, is there a better way for me to say this, or is there a better way for me to deliver this? And I just kind of do those three little questions in my head before I press send. And, you know, generally I get it right. Sometimes I don't, but because my tribe's engaged, they let me know, hey, you buggered that up. You didn't get that right. So whatever it is for you, I think, you know, maybe have your own kind of code of conduct, or your own, you know, your own strategy, your own ethics, your own values, your own methodology, whatever it might be. But the key points that have come out in this webinar have been very strong and very obvious, and I hope that everyone has really, you know, got value out of them. Just before we finish here up, and we might take a few questions once we finish, Rosemary, if that's okay. So if you asked a question, Annetta, hi Annetta, you came to Bali too, so Annetta's recovering from a Bali trip. We'll answer your question when we actually finish the webinar, Annetta, so anyone who wants to stay on the line can, but I'm just conscious of time. So bear with us and I'll finish up, and then we'll go back to your question. So a lot of interesting tribe building advice in there. I am going to say, and again, Rosemary and I were having a chat about this off air beforehand, this is a great book. Seth Godin's book on tribes really puts a lot of stuff into perspective. It's one of his first books that I read apart from Purple Cow. And even though it's a little bit older now, it's a book that's worth reading if you're serious about building a tribe. And all of this is about setting the right purpose, setting the right intent, you know, all of those things, rather than necessarily setting the right content, to be honest. Thank you so much, Rosemary, for coming on the line and for sharing your wonderful, wonderful advice about tribe building. You're such a wise lady. It is so lovely to be able to have you here and to connect with you, Rosemary. So thank you.
What a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, look, and obviously you can get Rosemary's book, The Mentor Within, from Amazon, and pretty easy to get that, or via her site, triplewin and .com.au. And of course, just Rosemary helps people to build tribes. So she coaches people in this, she advises, all the rest of it. If it's something that you're interested in, you can reach out and contact her via her website. Really, really easy, and such a delight to work with you, Rosemary, in every way. So thanks for tuning in, folks. If you want any more of my stuff, you can get it through all these sites. We've just launched Smallville. If you're not familiar with what Smallville is, just check it out. It's very easy to find, and it's going to become one of the major sites for small business in Australia, if not the world, we're hoping. And I'd just like to report in that Lala, my little dog, is fine and dandy. She's more loud than she is injured. So we have had no webinar victims or tragedies so far. It's just been one of those funny kind of days, mainly because I'm overtired from being away. All right, folks, if you need to tune out, go and build your tribe. Go and do that now. Rosemary and I are just going to stay on the line. If anyone's got a question that they want answered, Rosemary, have you still got a little bit of time just to answer a couple of questions?
I absolutely do.
Righto, thank you. So thanks for tuning in, folks. There'll be another webinar next month. I've got no idea what it's about, but if you've got an idea or a topic or someone who thinks could come on the line and chat to me, by all means, you know how to reach me. Get in there and tell me what you want to do. And thank you so much for making the time. I appreciate how valuable everyone's time is, and it really does mean a lot to me that you tune in. So thank you for that. All right, go forth and have a great day. Now, Rosemary, we've got a question here from the lovely Annetta. Can you see that question on the question box?
No, I can't see hers, but please tell me what it is.
I'll read it out. So Annetta's asked, how do you make sure that your tribe maintains diversity? So I've seen so many groups where members from the same profession come together to make each other feel good about themselves, but they tend to regurgitate the same old ideas. So it's kind of a closed group, you're saying there, Annetta, and you know they're really just kind of tossing around the same ideas. The tribe is not necessarily growing or evolving; it's kind of stayed in its way. What's your take on that? It sounds terrible, to be honest, but what's your take on that, Rosemary?
I think that is one of the most powerful questions you can possibly ask. It's to do with the echo chamber. It's to do with the fact that people find same online or same in groups, right, and keep telling each other stuff so that everyone believes the same thing. And it is a massive, massive risk to the tribe growing and developing, but it's very comfortable and people like it. So one of the things, just the fact that you acknowledge it is the first step. The second thing to do is to actually invite people to bring somebody in that might be able to add something different. So you can put a challenge to your tribe and say, we're looking for people who are not at the moment engaged in this field. We're looking for people who are not yet fit. Or we're looking for people who are super fit. Or whatever the thing is that your tribe doesn't have. And you have a each one bring one type of process, like you would do with a meetup. And I've done this before, and it's amazing what comes in. It's like we used to do when we were all single, you know, bring a single friend along, and some diversity. So beautiful question.
It's basically a dating thing. But
it's a dating thing.
But the reality is, though, that works if the intent is there, but it doesn't work if the intent is not there. And I think sometimes there's these perhaps groups or tribes, to use that term, that are quite happy to be a little closed group where everyone can kind of regurgitate the same old ideas, because that's the purpose that that tribe serves, is really just to keep, you know, passing around the same old boring old data. But it still does serve a purpose. It's just not a tribe that you or I would want to be a part of. I think it's probably, I don't know, that's my take on it, Rosemary. I don't know. Have I got it wrong? I don't know. What do you...
No, I think that really most people who run tribes would rather sit in the very comfortable position of having lots of people who agree with them and nobody who actually challenges. And I think it is really important to have that need to keep it alive, to keep it alert, to keep new challenges coming. You will lose some people who want the comfort.
Yeah, that's right.
That's a choice that is made. Because somebody else here is asking about what happens when the area that you work in has a lot of social stigma, Sharon. And I think that is a place sometimes where you do want people who are all signed up to the same philosophy of confidentiality, of kindness, of connection, and where that is actually spoken about and carefully brought to the front. You can have some diversity there, but you don't want diversity from people who are going to cause a problem, let things out, break the rules. You don't want that in that kind of tribe community.
Well, and that's the interesting part, because the second part of that question there is really the clincher from Sharon Chisholm, isn't it? That I'll read out in full. If your area of work, if the area you work in still has a lot of social stigma, how do you make it a comfortable and safe space for people to be open? And that's the thing, is that to make it a comfortable and safe space for people to be open. So you're right. If there's a lot of contrarian views in there, if there's aggression in there, then no one's going to speak up. So that's where you do really need that kind of special space where people do know it's safe, and setting of the rules of the tribe and the intent of the tribe is so very, very clear. It's a really, really, a bit of a challenging space, but also a wonderful opportunity for people to be able to kind of share their ideas, views, thoughts, fears, frustrations, if there is a great tribe that will let them do that in that safe environment. Great application for a tribe, I think. So, yeah, nice question. Has anyone else got any other questions they want to ask at this stage of the game? Otherwise, I think we'll wrap it up and see if it recorded and see what else is kind of happening. I don't think there's any other questions here, Rosemary, so let's call it a webinar. Thank you, Sharon. Thank you, Anetta. Thank you, everyone else, for your lovely comments and feedback there. Thanks, Kirsty. Lots of great feedback. Awesome stuff. Really appreciate you giving up some of your time today as well, Rosemary. And I'm sorry about the technical kind of woohoos at the beginning, folks. For some reasons, everything seems to get a little bit harder on some days with technology, but we got there in the end. How to find out more about Smallville? Great question, Danny. Just check out smallville.com.au and you're going to come across a wealth of small business information that will blow your socks off. Just launched about 2 weeks ago, and we're all pretty proud of it, and half the people on the call are Smallville contributors, so that makes me extremely proud. A whole new tribe. All right, take care, everyone, and you take care, Rosemary, and we'll talk to you folks all really soon. Thanks, folks. Bye-bye.